Hello everybody, welcome to Chuck Free Uncorked. You know, here we are in Santa Barbara, California, wine country. We get asked so frequently, where should I go? What should I see? So we took this quick jaunt to California for 3 days just to shoot little tidbits of some of the most interesting vineyards and people we've met along our journey to California wines. So this is one of those stops. This is Endocedo Vineyard, 900 acres. To me, one of the top 2 vineyards out of California, specifically for Chardonnay, Pinot Noir, and Syrah. The original plantings were all 1973. They're all own-rooted because it's a lot of sandy soils. There's a waiting list of people waiting to get grapes from this iconic Hall of Fame vineyard. One of the most compelling factors of this whole Santa Barbara appellation is that if you look at the northern part of California, the mountain ranges run north to south like this. So all the cold air from the ocean, now think about it. What's the difference between the Pacific Ocean in Hawaii and the Pacific Ocean here in California? The water is warm and inviting in Hawaii. Here the water is cold and gnarly. Because the water is cold and gnarly, the winds are cold and gnarly. So Napa and Sonoma are lucky because they have mountain ranges that run north to south that block the cold air from infiltrating into the valley. If you look in comparison to Santa Barbara, the mountain range changes to east to west. The ocean is right over there. So it channels all the cold air from the ocean. So a couple of Junes ago, I was in Napa Valley. It was 106, it was 108 degrees in temperature. The same day down here, it was 68 to 70 degrees. So dramatically different, growing conditions. And so that means it takes longer to ripen. You have more hang time, more physiological maturity without the heaviness. That's talking about it in general. There's always exceptions, but you get the idea. So that's why we started down here to show you what can be in terms of lightness, crispness. If we expect today's foods to be lighter and fresher, shouldn't today's wines be lighter and fresher? That's the whole concept down here. And then you can see the marine soils, they create a certain salinity, a certain minerality in the wines that make the wines even more refreshing and uplifting. That's the whole key to understanding what can possibly happen here. It starts in this vineyard with these winemakers. We're gonna have a blast. Stay tuned. Joining us today, Chris Hamill. He oversees this beautiful Endocedo Vineyard, one of the most iconic vineyards in all of California. So Chris, for our viewers, maybe in your own words, you can tell us, what do you think makes Endocedo so unique and special?
Well, somehow the owners, the Miller family that I work for, had the good fortune to stumble upon this piece of land. It's quite diverse and it's quite cool, as you know, relatively speaking, for how far we are inland. So I can't imagine that they knew in the late 60s when they purchased this what it would become. But it turns out, and you can see because we have a bunch of neighbors that have essentially followed suit, and now you see Endocedo has a name that's almost recognized worldwide, at least for those in the know and that geek out about vineyards. But the reason why it was able to take off and have a name is because essentially we partner with many winemakers over the years, such as your good friends back at Bon Climat and Cupé. But I've worked with over 100 pretty closely.
Wow, that's crazy.
And a lot of times these winemakers are putting Endocedo on the bottle.
Yeah.
Vineyard designating, taking it out, telling the story, and because of that, it's been able to have a name.
Real quick question. We were up with Mark up on Z Block. How is the soil different up there than all these vineyards down here?
Well, geologically, how it differs is what you have up on the hills is basically decomposed parent material. So this is ancient ocean that was uplifted God knows how many thousands of years ago. And what we have here is Monterey Shale.
Right.
Predominantly, which you can find kind of up and down the central coast, north of Paso. Paso has some Tepesquet Canyons, pure Monterey Shale. Under that, we can have some exposed older soils of dolomitic limestone. And then if you look across the way, those soils are volcanic in origin, but those are the neighbors, so we don't really have much volcanic soil here.
This vineyard has had a lot to say for this industry for so many years, and it's due to your hard work and your team's hard work. So congratulations, and thank you for joining us here on Chuck Free Uncorked.
Yeah, my pleasure, Chuck.
Okay, bro.
Absolutely, man.
Thanks. We're here in Endocedo Vineyard, and this is the winemaking facility which houses Au Bon Climat, Lindquist family. Earlier we were walking vineyards with our man Mark Piro, who's assistant winemaker here. He has his own label called Piro Wine Company, and we're here tasting the
2021 Presqu'île Vineyard.
So Presqu'île Vineyard was the one we showed you across the way. That's his wife's family's business,
Yep,
right? Company.
yep.
And so, okay, so why did you choose this vineyard?
So this vineyard, I liked what you said about oral sensibilities. This is orally sensible. It's a little lighter and bodied, but you smell it, you taste it. It's fresh, bright, packs a big flavor. It's planted in ancient sand. One of the things you get is minerality that we've been talking about.
Your wine has a lot of energy.
Yeah.
I like that. It's very uplifting. It's very transparent. It's not tannic. It's not hard. It's got deliciousness. It's got charm. I think it's a really pretty wine.
Yeah, thanks.
It's not available in Hawaii yet, but hopefully soon.
Soon. It's coming.
You know, I hear so many people and see so many people on the Facebook groups online, and they want big black Pinot. Well, that's one side of Pinot, and congratulations. I'm glad you're enjoying wine. You know, there's a lot of really excellent examples of that. But this is on the other extreme. You know, just like the Costa de Oro Pinots, just like the Au Bon Climat Pinots in general, is they tend to be more elegant, more civil, more transparent, lighter color, more perfumed, a little more feminine, a little well balanced, and wonderfully textured. You know, that's the cool. In addition, his wine has really great energy. So congratulations, and Mark, thanks for taking us around. We're going to look for your wine. Piro Wine Company, our man Mark. Joining us is Michael Brugelli, who has his own label, Brugelli, and as well as another label called Vineyards. And he's also makes his wines here at the Endocedo facility. He's a top-notch vineyardist. He's a top-notch winemaker. He's a top-notch wine mind. And it's a thrill that we just happened to bump into him here, and we're excited. He's going to join us at lunch, I believe, right?
I am, yeah.
So what do we have here?
So we have some 2021 Chardonnay from Santa Maria Valley here. The blocks that I've worked with for some time, and I've done some interesting vineyard practices to try to exemplify what they can do. And as anyone like yourself would know, when you apply top-tier vineyard practices on year one, you have a certain impact on quality, but you do it again and again and again and again, and you tend to kind of amass this cumulative effect. And so,
Yep.
Native fermentation here. It's been in barrels since October of last year. It hasn't moved. It's been in the same barrel the whole time, and this will be bottled about a year from now.
And so how much time in oak altogether?
It'll be about 16 months in oak and 2 months in stainless.
And how much percent new?
The final wine will be about 40%. 40% out of a 500-liter barrel.
And how much contact on the lees?
16 months in the lees, 2 months in stainless.
And so what is your objective? What are you trying to create with Brugelli?
Really trying to exemplify what the region can do when you take things seriously on a multi-year basis. When you isolate sites that you feel like have the potential to be incredible, and you apply high-end vineyard practices to those sites, what can happen from there?
Yeah, and then how's that different from Vineyards?
Vineyards is more a brand for by the glass programs and for the people, different sites. Those are sites where I might be getting 3 or 4 tons an acre versus 1.5. And so they're more approachable, the price point's more affordable, and those wines are really made for a larger consumer set, whereas the Brugelli wines are really focused on the best of the best in all regards.
So this is like, if this is a pyramid, this is the top. This is the apex.
Exactly.
And then Vigneron is more for everybody, but still high quality.
Exactly.
But just so it's like when you go traveling, it's really interesting. When you go traveling to eat at the Michelin 3 stars, you're going to see that besides the 3-star restaurant, they have a more casual restaurant, which uses the ingredients, the same ingredients that the 3-star uses, but just done more casually. So that's kind of like vignerons. Vignerons, if you look in the French dictionary, it can be translated to winemaker or wine grower, But in Corsica, they'll tell you, vigneron is actually a word that means more than that. It's like samurai, the word samurai. Samurai is not about sword skill. It's about a code. It's about an ethic. It's about a belief. It's about a culture. And so, this is all about Brugelli and what he wants to do in his wine. Thank you for sharing it, Michael. We
Cheers,
appreciate it.
thank you.
Nice to see you again.
My pleasure. Good to see you.
This is Louisa Sawyer Lindquist. I've known her for quite some time, and she has the label Verdad, her own project. It's dedicated to what, Louisa?
The original vision was Spanish and Iberian varietals. So I started with Albarino and Tempranillo. I was the first winemaker in California to produce an Albarino. And then I moved on to Tempranillo. My first one was in 2001. And eventually added a little bit of Graciano, some Pinot Noir I make with my husband Bob, as well as a Cabernet Sauvignon program made with organic grapes I source from Paso Robles. So that pretty much encompasses most of what Verdad is, but I'm very excited that I will be making a Godeo this year.
Wow.
From a custom planting here in Santa Maria Valley. So stay tuned to try some of that. That's going to be a lot of fun.
To put it in perspective, I mean, Albarino today is one of the most popular white wine imports into the country now. Those from Rías Baixas in Spain. And here's this young lady that, pioneered it here in California, and she took a chance. And where everything else was Sauvignon Blanc, Chardonnay, here's a lady that said, no, I'm going to plant Albarino instead of Pinot Noir and Cabernet Sauvignon in this neck of the woods especially. No, and Syrah is another grape. No, I'm going to plant and make Tempranillo. And so that's where Verdad came from. Mm-hmm. And I was so amazed at this strong woman, just like going on a limb because of what she believed in and this opportunity that she believed. And look, it's come to fruition. Across the country, everybody's drinking Albarino now. So this is her label, Verdad.
Verdad. And interestingly enough, the first planting we made was in Santa Ynez Valley. In 1996, we planted 150 sticks, and that was propagated into a couple acres.
156 vines.
Vines.
Vines,
exactly.
not acres, vines.
Vines, propagated that to 2 acres and then moved it to Edna Valley. In the meantime, it was, I don't know, serendipity, but in the meantime, Edna Valley has become the area which is within the Central Coast that has the largest planting of Albarino vines outside of Spain.
Wow, I didn't know that.
And it's a great area because it has a really strong Pacific Ocean influence.
It's cool.
It's cool. It's 5
Temperature-wise.
miles from the ocean, depending on where your vineyard is, sometimes closer. And it has one of the longest, coolest growing seasons in California.
So as you will recall, Albarino, the ones we featured on the podcast so far is all from Spain. And Albarino, oh no, we did feature one from Monterey, Cambiata. But Albarino, when it's like this, it's fresh, it's aromatic, it's very uplifting. It's got like this racy, aromatic, Riesling-esque kind of purity and it's just very like bright and fresh. And she's captured this in this wine. So the wines are not available in Hawaii yet, but I wanted you to see the label, Verdad. I wanted you to meet the visionary, Louisa.
Thank you.
It's so nice to see you. One of the champions of a grape, of a concept out of here in California, and she persevered.
Thank you. Appreciate being here. Mahalo.
Thanks for joining us, Bob.
Thank you. Happy to be here.
So I want to give you some background. Bob Lindquist is one of the Hall of Famer, game-changing winemakers out of California of all time. Simply put, he championed the Syrah grape variety, the Marsanne grape variety, the Roussanne grape variety, all these grape varieties that were grown and produced in the Rhone Valley of France. And he grew it here in this area, Santa Barbara, and then other places I'm sure he got some fruit over the years. But he championed these Rhone varietals. Him and winemakers like Randall Graham and Bonnie Doon, Adam Tolmack at Ojai. Who else?
Steve
Edmonds at Edmond St. John. Bruce Nyers released the 1974 Syrah under Joseph Phelps, and he's created his own label with his wife, Louise, Sawyer, Lindquist. And again, they make all kinds of really interesting wines from Endocedo, Edna Valley. Where else?
Right. Mostly the Santa Maria Valley, the San Ynez Valley, and the Edna Valley. Those are kind of the three main areas that we work with. So all cool climate growing areas for Rhone varieties here on the Central Coast. The bottle I'm holding here is the Endocedo X block, which is the oldest Syrah block at Endocedo. X was actually the last planting, the last block planted by Endocedo when they planted the original vines in 1973.
And they had Syrah?
It was planted to Riesling.
Oh yeah.
On its own roots, and then in 1986 it was grafted over to Syrah. So Syrah on Riesling roots, and that block is still producing today. It's kind of on its last legs, unfortunately. It's almost 50 years later, but it makes wonderful wine.
When you started making Syrah, what was your vision? What was your intention? What was your interpretation of what Syrah could be? Let's start off with Syrah first.
Well, the benchmarks were the wines from the Rhone, and I had gone to visit Kermit Lynch, and while I was working at Zaca Mesa Winery, we had just planted some Syrah at Zaca Mesa. And while I was visiting with Kermit, he kind of got up on his soapbox and talked about how we shouldn't be planting Pinot Noir, we shouldn't be planting Cabernet Sauvignon, we shouldn't be planting Chardonnay, we should be planting Marsanne and Grenache and Syrah and all these Rhone varieties. And he was right about that. What he was wrong about were the other varieties, because those all have found a home here in California once we figured out the right places to grow them. But what he was right about was that the Rhone varieties did really well here. And starting with Syrah, and then later adding, other varieties like Marsanne and Roussanne, and there's always been Grenache in California, but it usually wasn't very interesting because it was planted in the wrong places. Now Grenache is planted in the right places in California and making some really wonderful wines.